What is up, everybody? I figured I'd bring you guys a quick build log update. This time I'm going to run through, I don't know, 5 or 6 different things that I've actually had going. So first, let's talk about the motherboard. So, actually, I finally got my Crosshair 5 Formula Z. You can see the name right there installed. It does look very nice. I've got the RAM installed. I'm waiting on my SwiftTech CPU water block and my GPU water block, my SwiftTech Komodo R7970, which I will put on my MSI card. So yeah, I pretty much have all the cables and everything hooked up, my headers for the front I/O, the on and off, the LED switch, which I actually won't be using, so I don't even know I have that plugged in, because that's hooked up to my Bitphoenix Hydra Pro, which is just behind this bay side, and I have all my audio stuff. So that's pretty much what I have working for my motherboard. Here's my FX-8350, the Vishera. I will be using this for editing, and if you have been commenting on another thread that not another thread, I've been on overclock.net too much, but if you've been commenting on another video, it was an NCIX FX-8350 video, people have been commenting that I have been saying that this CPU is solely for gaming, and actually it's not. It's meant more for editing. But I'm actually talking with a client who I'm going to be doing a build soon, and he's trying to choose between this because it just has the sheer number of cores, and he's trying to choose between an FX-8350 just like mine and an Intel 3930 or 3770K. And I told him it's his choice, go with what he feels, do some research first, and if you need any help, contact me. So he's going to get back to me about that soon, and so here's what's up next. Alright, so about the radiators and fans, just as a quick overview for the fans, I am using all Bitphoenix fans in this system. Here's my Red Spectre Pro 230, which will be pulling air in from the front. I will be having a Spectre PWM, just the regular Spectre with the red LEDs, that will be hooked up to the motherboard header right up here. I'll pull it through this cable, like tie hole, and I have my two Spectre Pro 200mm in the top. I decided not to go push-pull for the rad because I figured that it would actually create some space limitations for what I'm doing and how I'm going to have to route the cables for my motherboard, because you can see I have the connectors up there. But I'll have to figure that out once I actually do get the other fan, and if I do decide to go push-pull, I have to get a an equalizer, so that way I can hook it up to one channel on the Hydra Pro, since it's only got 5, and that would actually make 5 right there, not counting the back, but that will not, the PWM fan will not be on the Hydra Pro because it actually doesn't support it. But that's pretty much what I've got going for that. I did get my Phobia 400 mounted in the top. Let me grab my trusty flashlight of justice. Here we go. There it is. It's got the grill on it. Not the grill, the oh, I just forgot what the name of it was. I think it's called a template for mounting fans, and that would be my phone. But yep, that's what I'll be using for the top radiator, and for the back I decided to go for an AlphaCool UT60. So that will be intaking air, and this will also be intaking air. Since I have roughly 300 CFM coming in, I should have roughly 300 CFM going out. So if I do decide to do a front-mounted radiator, which I originally thought about doing, but I decided not to right now because it would just be too big of a hassle. Since I'm not doing that, if I were to be doing that, actually, I'd have the front fan pulling air in, and then I'd have this fan pulling out. So that way I'd have CFM coming in, and then the air coming out. So that's pretty much what I have going for the rads and fans. Alright, and for the reservoirs, here's what I have. I actually did finally get my 2 Frozen Q reservoirs in, and if you're wondering why I have this little blue microfiber cloth wrapped around it, is because I don't want to get the acrylic on the actual reservoir itself scratched by the one clamp that I have for attaching it to the case. So this is a 250mm liquid fusion. I got this in from Frozen Q a couple weeks ago. It is absolutely beautiful. It's got the blood red helixes in it, and also got side ports as an option. You can't really see that. But I'll be using that with a SwiftTech MPC35X pump, which will be down here at the bottom. So this will be the primary reservoir. I also have that in my front liquid fusion. It's very difficult to see. Hello, camera. So that's what that looks like. It's got a really nice black background. You can see the outlet holes. So that's pretty much what I have going for the reservoirs. And Yeah, here's a quick run through of my loop. Starting from the front reservoir, which I actually finally did fix a couple things that I will address in another video, hopefully. So it'll go from there into the side ports of this reservoir, and I'll actually be filling up this reservoir first because it would be a bitch to take out the Hydra Pro with all the fan cabling that I've done. So I'll fill it up from this primary fill port right here, which is the G1 quarter fitting on the top. You can't really see that. Flashlight time. Bam, now you can see it. Alright, so it'll go from there into the SwiftTech MPC35X, which will be down here. There will be a tube coming up from here, and it will come out into my SwiftTech Komodo right here. It'll come out from there into the right side of my AlphaCool UT60. It'll come out from the other side, and it'll come into the SwiftTech Apogee HD. It'll come out from there with an extender. I have I think a 20 or 30 millimeter bits power extender. It'll come out from there, and it'll come up into the right side of this rad, and then it'll come out of the left into the first reservoir. And also in the AlphaCool, in the primary fitting going in, I will have I'll have a temperature probe, and that will also be connected to two thermometers up in the front. The other temperature probe will be going into the 400 millimeter radiator, so that way I can measure what my temps are coming out of the GPU and out of the CPU are, so that way I can adjust whatever fans I need to just to get cooler temperatures all around. Speaking of liquid, I will be using Primo Chill, their super high purified water, so that will have an excellent base for my system. So that's pretty much what I have going for the reservoirs and the loop. Alright, and I'm actually having a dilemma about my sound card. I'm sorry, my voice is starting to go out. I'm actually getting sick. The thing about this is that I'm actually looking at getting the Sound Blaster ZXR when it comes out, depending on how good a review it gets. I'm definitely not going ASUS for my sound card because I've seen a lot of bad stuff about the shielding on them and how it can get interference from a very powerful video card. But I'm definitely going to get the ZXR if it does get good or modest reviews. I really like Sound Blaster stuff. I've never had it before, but I know other people with their products, and I've seen them in real life and in action, and they sound phenomenal. That's the only word that I can come up with. But the only problem with that is that if the dimensions of the card are too wide, since I will be routing my tube up through from my SwiftTech up through here, if I do end up doing that, is that it might create a space restriction, and I don't want it to block out the ports. Now the only thing is that I don't know how long how far out the sound card will stick, so I'll have to get dimensions for it, and I'll have to measure out from the PCI slot. And another thing that I have to address is if I want to put it here, it also might block out the tubing for the Komodo, because this is the 16x slot, and the only other 16x slot on this board is this slot right here. So it goes 16.8, 16.4, and then you have the two PCI, just the regular express card slots. And I'd definitely want to put that Sound Blaster in there, because that's actually the slot that it's compatible with. So the dilemma that I'm facing is if I wanted to put the Komodo down here, and I'd have to actually get another fitting to get it to angle in correctly. And if I want to put the Sound Blaster here and then the Komodo here, if I want to put the Komodo up here and then put the Sound Blaster down here, I just have to get the dimensions. Actually, the Sound Blaster CXR isn't even out yet, so I'd have to figure that out later, but that's the problem that I'm having with the sound card choice. And as for cabling, I am having a problem as well. Because I did a mount for the Phobia 400 Extreme up here, which you can see gracing the top of my half X, I'm actually having some cabling problems. Because I had actually did originally block off the holes up here that were for cabling, I'm either going to have to pull up my motherboard a little bit, and then I'll have to pull the cables from around there and just plug them in here for the 4 and the 8 pin, and also for the CPU fan, but that really shouldn't be a problem since I would have plenty of clearance for that. Or I'd actually also bring the CPU header either from in this grommet or from one of these fan cabling holes and actually just cut it off. But that's a problem that I'm facing with cabling. Also, I'm facing a dilemma about whether I want to go with BitPhoenix, the Alchemy, the sleeved cable extensions, which look really nice, and I'd want to get them for the 24 pin and for the 4 pin and for the graphics card, the 6 and the 8 for my 7970. Also for my USB, my audio, and everything else along with the front header. I actually wouldn't need to use the power LED, or not the power LED, I wouldn't need to use the connector, or the fan LED, since that will be hooked up to my Hydra Pro, and that's has actually a button on it for that. But that's a problem that I'm facing with cabling. Besides that, I actually do have still yet to get my power supply. That's one of the last things I'm going to get, so that way I can finalize and figure out all the wattages of all the components when they will be overclocked roughly. But that's also a problem that I'm facing. But other than that, for cabling, I do have my 2 light sources hooked up. I'm sure that you've seen this further, like back in the video. But there's actually LEDs in here, and this can either put on a light show of UV light, or it can just be a straight beam, or straight shoot of UV light. And I will be using that since I do have my UV reactive danger den 1/2 inch by 3/4 inch tubing. And I also have my 1 meter of NZXT red sleeved LEDs, and I really like NZXT stuff. They always give you really nice sleeving, and it's so thick and it's so dense you can't really distinguish it from the rest of the case when the side panel's on. Speaking of that, the last thing that I need to tell you guys before I go is that I do have $500 roughly worth of parts coming in tomorrow, and I will show you guys what that looks like when I get all that installed. And I also need to get my side panel sent in, or I need to get rid of this one actually, and I'll get one with a full window on it that will actually follow this profile, and it'll look really nice when I finally get the actual thing finished. And the cool thing that I like about the Half X is that the cabling is a lot better than what it is on the Half 922, which is what I have over there, and I'll actually be selling that PC because I don't have the space, and I actually have somebody lined up to buy it. And also be getting money from a client build there who want me to do either an FX-8350 or an i7, I think it's a 3770K, and I'll probably use the money from that build to buy my OCZ Vector 128 gig SSD for my boot, because I'm switching over from Mushkin because it's honestly not all that great. But I'll be using that to buy the OCZ drive, and I'll also be using the extra money from selling off my current PC after I transfer all the data off of it and get a fresh install of Windows 7 on my OCZ drive. And I'll also be using that money to get another set of the Dominator Platinum, the 2400 MHz RAM, so that way I'll have a total of 16 gigs of that, so that way I won't have any limitations when I'm overclocking the CPU. I won't have risks on having stability problems with my RAM. And I'll also probably be spending that, if I don't go with the BitPhoenix sleeved stuff, I'll probably end up getting that later with that money. So that's what I'm working on for now, guys. I'll show you guys an update after I get all the parts installed, which I will be getting hopefully tomorrow. At least that's what FedEx says, and I will see you guys later.